at snapconstruction.com. That's 612-333-SNAP or snapconstruction.com.
Feeling like people just don't get the vibrant rainbow unicorn that is your celestial essence? Have you been wondering how you stepped into this infernal, mundane timeline full of muggles, NPCs, and toilet paper shortages? Here at Magus Books and Herbs, we get you, and are staffed with real-life unicorns just waiting to help you rediscover your shine. So come explore your magical side with books, herbs, incense classes, and more at 1848 Central Avenue Northeast in Minneapolis or online at magusbooks.com.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Cloudy tonight with a low around freezing, then on Friday, cloudy with a high around 49. Gotcha Mama's Hot Barbecue offers the huge taste of selections like baby back ribs and pulled pork sandwiches out of a little place. Gotcha Mama's is located just a block west of I-35W off of West Diamond Lake Road in South Minneapolis. Visit their website at scotchamamas.com.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host, guest, random reptoid, or chupacabra may not necessarily reflect those of AM 950 Radio, its affiliates, or its sponsors. Now, it's time to step into the unknown. There are things people experience but never talk about. A shadow moving in the corner, flickering of the lights, a disembodied voice. We invite you to talk with us, share your story, share your experience, because this isn't just your story, this is our story. This is GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun.
And this is GhostBox Radio on AM 950, where every night we talk about the paranormal, ufology, Bigfoot, and so much more. My name is Greg Bakun. Thank you very much for joining me tonight on this. It's kind of starting to become a bit of a drizzle out there, Adam, Thursday evening. I don't know if you noticed that when you're coming in, kind of lightly coming in, it seems like.
Yeah, it's starting to drizzle just a bit, and enjoy the temperature while it is, because tomorrow's high ain't going to be anywhere near it is now. Only supposed to be like 35, and currently we're sitting at 40.
Oh, very interesting. Good to know. I wasn't quite sure. I mean, I'm sure that they were talking about it when Patrick did the weather, but I guess that just kind of went over my head. I guess I wasn't paying.
Well, I was giving you current temperature.
Oh, that's true.
That wasn't current.
What?
He said it's going to be freezing tonight.
Oh,
I
thought he was in the other room telling us this.
I thought so too. I don't know. I think it was a Sasquatch though. I think we have Squatchy over there.
All I know is every time he talks about Scott Your Mama, I want to go and check it out.
I do too.
Should we go do that sometime?
We should do that. We should do it live out there, like one Saturday. Just hop. Oh, no, we'll do it on Sunday afternoon, just for old times.
Just like the old days at 4 p.m.
Yeah.
Right? Yep. No, that sounds good. Before we bring on our guest tonight, I have to say we haven't spoke really since the Halloween episode.
No, we haven't. I've been keeping my distance.
Yeah.
Distance. You people scare me. No,
yeah.
I'm kidding.
You scared Matt McNeil.
Good.
Somebody
needs to find.
I tuned in the next day, and he starts off the show talking with Brett. He's like, Bakun says the place is haunted. And it's like, well, you just find that out now? Yeah, when you're here, there's lights on. Folks, there's no lights on in this station. We keep this place very dark at night when we do the show. So,
well, he's got the Cush gig. He's out of here by like 4.
Yeah.
So the sun is still up by the time he leaves. This place changes when that sun goes down.
I said that to him. I said it's a different place, and no one believes me. And I think, as I said, the night that the internet went out, it's like Jurassic Park, because we had to go way on the other side of the building. We don't know what's waiting for us here. Is there a velociraptor waiting for us, and this, because the place is very different at night here.
Oh yeah, I would have been scared. The velociraptors, they run around this place. I mean, we've only ran into Percy, little snake, but I know that there's a raptor out here somewhere.
Yeah,
I've heard it scratching at the door.
This place is like the era of time forgot. So yeah, no, very much so.
We got Marshall, Will, and Holly just in the other room here.
Yeah,
for the land of the lost
and the slee stacks.
Yeah, there we go.
So okay, Adam. Now, we don't normally bring on someone to talk about their great-grandfather and use words such as monster, use the word as killer, mass murderer, This is something that we don't normally do on the show.
No, this is kind of a step into a new waters for you.
Yeah, we don't do a lot of true crime. But tonight we are going to do so. And I've been very, very happy that Mr. Jeff Mudgett has agreed to join us tonight to talk about a number of things. Mr. Mudgett is a graduate of University of San Diego School of Law, member of both the California and Washington State bars, honorably discharged United States Naval Reserve commander, and also the great-great-grandson of HH Holmes, also known as original name Herman Webster Mudgett. So, Jeff, welcome to GhostBox Radio.
Thank you, Greg. I've been looking forward to being on the show with you tonight.
That's very kind. We've been really looking forward to having you on the program as well. And folks, if you want to put any questions into the comments section, Jeff, are you okay? I mean, we talked about everything before the show except about how the show works, which shows a good sign of how good Adam and I are at this job. Is it okay if people have questions for you tonight?
I enjoy that very much. Go ahead.
And folks, you can also call in 952-946-6205. The number is 952-946-6205. Jeff, one thing that I'm really interested in is kind of your relationship with your great-great-grandfather. And I know that's an odd thing to say considering he was executed in 1896. But, the idea of coming to terms, learning about who he was, and now kind of, doing the research and writing about him, I'm curious to know where it was in your life that you realized or was told who your grandfather was. Great-great-grandfather.
It was and I tried to capture that in the first part of my book, but it was a family dinner party. We were there. Grandma was cooking her favorite pot roast.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, her famous pot roast, and the whole family was there. My uncle and his kids, and my stoic, cold as ice grandfather's there at the head of the table, and as normal, never saying a word, just sitting there listening to all of us back and forthing. And the conversation got into my grandmother's new hobby, which was tracking down our ancestry. And she was off on a tangent about how we were all descendant from General Robert E. Lee of the Civil War.
Oh.
And that was who she was convinced it was. She had hired a group, an expensive group, to track it down.
Mm-hmm.
And at dinner that night, she had decided to tell us all that it had come to something different than that. It had come to something where these investigators had called her up and said that we've got something to tell you. You may not enjoy this, but it's part of our job. There was nothing about Robert E. Lee there. This was a terrible, horrible man, maybe the most monstrous in American history. And they went on to describe HH Holmes, which was his real name, as you said, was Herman Webster Mudgett, but he had 40 different aliases. He was a con man extraordinaire, fraud, criminal scheme ever. He was probably the slipperiest American that ever lived. And we sat there at dinner that night, and she very honestly told us all the truth. We all were, we were all sitting there listening, pretty much waiting for apple pie, to tell you the truth. But my brother then jumped in and then started giving us the details about the murder castle and people and serial killings and mass murders. And Greg, it was an incredible moment, because I had never been friendly with my grandfather before. I mean, it was never one of those go fishing with grandfather relationship. And I'll never forget how he finally exploded, hearing enough, slammed his fist down on the dinner table, said that name will never be mentioned in this house again, and stormed off.
Wow.
And that's how I found out I was the great-great-grandson of HH Holmes.
Oh, goodness. And did you wouldn't have known who HH Holmes was before this, though, right?
Not a chance.
Yeah.
No.
But I mean, still, from there, and did that ignite your imagination of like, I need to know more about him? Like, did that just make you want to know more?
Yeah, that's pretty much, that's the type of lawyer investigator I was, Greg.
Mhm.
Once something got in that kernel, I could never just turn it off. So I started picking up anything I could, and found out there was quite a few books written about this man.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, his escapades, his trial, his, as you said, his supposed execution, all those things, legend and lore about things that had maybe happened afterwards that you know, fascinated me. So I set aside the old hobbies I had and took up H.H. Holmes, and as anyone in your audience will agree with me on, this story in American history, this true crime story, probably has more tentacles than any other in existence. It just never stops growing. I just got hired by an outfit in Texas who wants to do a story about Holmes's escapades when he was down in Texas.
Wow.
And you know, and you saw I did a mini series with History Channel called American Ripper about the possibility that H.H. Holmes was Jack the Ripper in 1888 London. Right. And it just those tentacles just keep playing out, and so I enjoyed it. I made trips to the Smithsonian. I made trips to Chicago's museums and everything they had about Holmes, and so it was an interesting hobby to have. It wasn't something you want to be proud about. This wasn't something you wanted to be descendant from. I mean, there were people actually calling him the spawn of the devil.
Yeah.
Those things, an evil genius that had gone to medical school at the University of Michigan, graduated well, had gone out into business, decided he had little interest in helping people regarding their illnesses, so he instead took up selling skeletons, things like that.
Right. And making them too.
And I guess making shortcuts to them, Greg.
Yeah.
And so it was so there, it wasn't anything you were proud of. But then when my grandfather passed away, Greg, I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but
no problem.
When my grandfather passed away, the one that had said that name will never be mentioned in the house again, he left me some things for the rest of the family. As all good families do these days, we're haggling over wills and testaments and property and things like that. And I was pretty much just I was resenting the fact that here was a man that used to go off fishing for 2 or 3 days, and that I used to love as a little boy to fish whenever I could, and my grandfather never invited me fishing.
Mm-hmm.
So you can imagine I had very little interest in how he had died or not.
Sure.
So he knew that was my interest, and he left me a couple of tackle boxes with some of his old fishing gear in them, with a very interesting note regarding our ancestor. And in the bottom of the tackle boxes, and I write about this best I could in my book, was some material that he had his whole life that had belonged to his evil grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
So now we were talking, this was getting very interesting all of a sudden.
Yeah, it was.
And that's when I pretty much set aside my life as a lawyer and took up finding out what was the truth about this evil man, and it's seeing if I could maybe set American history straight.
What in what way were you going to try to set it straight?
Well, the family had this. The people that my grandmother had hired had told her that there was some interesting legend about this man after the alleged execution, about a Mudgett curse that had gone on after that. Anyone who had been involved in his arrest, his trial, his incarceration, his execution, many of them met with these terrible misfortune and endings to their lives. And the stories grew ghastlier and ghastlier about what had happened to them, and whether there was a demon, a devil, whether there was a ghost involved, or whether this man maybe hadn't been executed at all. After all.
Yeah.
So I started looking into those things and the facts. And that's what I'd been trained to do. That's what I did at law.
I see. Yeah.
And that the facts started emerging, and the story started getting more Stephen Kingish every time I took another chance. and like I said, I became obsessed with it, and finally just started looking into the more fascinating aspects about it, including the fact that he might have been Jack the Ripper in 1888 London. There was evidence that was indicative of that fact. And what I quickly found out, Greg, was whenever I was off investigating, in Chicago, in Washington, D.C., in Maine, in Texas, in Indiana, anywhere that Holmes had been when he was a criminal, I was always approached by someone who said they had another secret about him they wanted to share with me. It was quite fascinating. And perhaps the most interesting one of all was a group of men who came to me that said that they had been studying for years about how Holmes had been the author. I don't know how much information you have about Jack the Ripper, or if you've done any studying about it yourself.
Little bit of Whitechapel, yeah.
Yeah, and the famous Dear Boss letter.
Mm-hmm.
And they had said that they had obtained evidence indicating that Holmes had been the author of the Dear Boss letter.
Wow.
And they came to me seeing if I could provide them with some more of my great-great-grandfather's handwriting, and that we could perhaps do a professional comparison of that thing and see what kind of results we came up with.
Wow.
And go ahead.
I was just going to say, Jeff, why don't we just stop there for a second, because we're up against the clock. We're going to take our first break. This is an amazing conversation. I have some questions in the chat we're going to get to after the break. We'll kind of pick up with that letter, and we're going to be talking more with the great-great-grandson of HH Holmes, Jeff Mudgett. This is going to be a great conversation. You're listening to GhostBox Radio on AM 950.
Hello, I'm Jody, also known as Witch Jody on social media. I opened Midwest Witchery and Healing in historic Stillwater because as a nurse, I love to help others. When you come and visit Midwest Witchery and Healing, you will find everything from divination and magical services, classes to ritual tools, jewelries, handcrafted candles, witchy gear, and much more. My store is a safe environment for all on their own unique path. Look for the purple door. Find out more at MidwestWitcheryHealing.com.
Reach your highest level of consciousness and well-being with MetamorphosisConnections.com. MetamorphosisConnections.com is an online directory of the best holistic and metaphysical practitioners to help you make your most informed choices. You can search MetamorphosisConnections.com for classes, events, wellness and life coaches, plus metaphysical products and shops. You can also search for a wide array of healers from all modalities, including EFT, sound healing, energy healing, light therapy, ancestral healing, shamanic healing, reflexology, past life regressions, hypnotherapy, yoga, and more. And if you're not sure where to start, the search feature on metamorphosisconnections.com is tailored to help both those who know what they are looking for and those who are just starting. Come explore the possibilities for your higher self by visiting metamorphosisconnections.com. Their experienced practitioners can guide both beginners and those that are already on their spiritual journey. That's metamorphosisconnection.com, your link to direct you on your spiritual transformation.
Hell is empty and the devils are all here again. Attend this original, uplifting, and revealing musical satire about the times in which we live. This play explores wokeism, misinformation, the colonization of Mars, spy balloons, and features parodies of President Joe Biden, former President Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and even Mickey Mouse and Barbie make an appearance. Interact's Hell is Empty and All the Devils Are Here Again offers a much-needed communal laugh and is in the spirit of radical inclusion. The performance is at the Luminary Arts Center in the North Loop and ends November 18th, so get your tickets now. Special Queer Night on Thursday, November 16th. Time is going fast, so do not miss your chance to see this original performance, only available in Minneapolis. Interact Center's mission is to create art that challenges society's view of disabilities, and this performance features a cast of neurodiverse actors offering a joyful, inclusive, and funny look at our society. For tickets and more information, go to interactcenterarts.org. Hurry, play ends November 18th.
And welcome back to GhostBox Radio on AM 950. My name is Greg Bakun. Tonight we are talking to the great-great-grandson of HH Holmes, Jeff Mudgett. We're talking about a lot of interesting stuff tonight. Feel free to call in 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205, or you can leave a comment if you're watching us on Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube. Just put a comment in if you have a question for Jeff. Just a little bit of kind of backpedaling here a little bit. Just the Dear Boss letter that we're talking about here, which I believed is written by Jack the Ripper. It was a letter written in red ink, was 2 pages long, contained several spelling and punctuation errors. The overall motivation of the author was evidently to mock investigative efforts to allude to future murders. And it was sent to the Central News Agency of London on the 25th of September, 1888. So, Jeff, you had mentioned that people had come to you who believe that that letter could possibly have been written by your great-great-grandfather, H.H. Holmes.
Yeah, and when as you realize that Jack the Ripper is the true crime mystery of maybe of all time, and the phrase is known by billions around the world. And whenever there's a new movie or a new book, it seems they all do really well. But anyway, so they came to me with this material. They wanted to share this and wanted me to help each other, and they had some experts, handwriting experts, come back with conclusions, opinions about how similar the handwriting was between Holmes and the Dear Boss letter.
Wow.
Which you characterized excellently, and but it had always had this strange little tint to it about how it had been a journalistic hoax, possibly never the writing of the actual killer. And so it had we had some hurdles to get over, but having practiced that type of law, I knew that the Supreme Court had just come up with a killer decision about handwriting comparisons, expert opinions, and what was required before something like that would actually be determined a fact. So, I took the material these fellas had given me up to the University of Buffalo to an organization called the Cedar Fox. And these scientists there were working for the FBI and the Department of Justice, the Post Office, the Treasury, and they had been hired to create a computer program in order to compare handwriting.
Mm-hmm.
So when I contacted them, they were eager to see what I had. We we flew out there, took the material to them, and they agreed to run it, the Dear Boss letter, with my great-great-grandfather's handwriting through their computers. Well, Greg, and I can show any of your listeners this, the ones that are that interested. The numbers came back 97%.
Wow. Ooh.
Which everyone there, their jaws dropped.
Yeah.
We were all shocked because we all kind of thought this was all just a hoax, a kind of a joke, something. Well, now we were into something different. And once that information got out about that kind of number, I was contacted by the people at TED Talk, who asked me to give a talk in Vancouver, British Columbia, about whether the handwriting was my great-great-grandfather's or not. And so once that TED Talk was a huge success, and once that was done, then I was contacted by the people at History to do a miniseries called American Ripper, about how my co-host and I, she was Amaryllis Fox, she was an ex-CIA operative. I think they were trying to make us look kind of like Scully and Mulder.
Yeah.
And it didn't work. It didn't work. But so then we had an 8-part miniseries in 2017, tracking down my great-great-grandfather all through the United States and through London, and seeing if we could prove it true. But you know what we came up with was a lot of great numbers, a lot of good evidence, a lot of material that has yet to be disputed by the FBI, by Scotland Yard, anyone. And but as you know, with anything Jack the Ripper, it's very difficult to prove anything that society would be willing to accept is the true answer.
I agree. Yeah. You know, it's interesting, Jeff, that, you know, from what and I'm by no means a Holmes expert at all, but from what I've seen, that it kind of fits in with your great-great-grandfather's veracity of liking to write. He seemed to like to write about himself and like make himself known. So a letter like the Dear Boss letter doesn't seem to be too far of a leap for if people are really thinking that Holmes was Jack the Ripper.
No, you're exactly right. While after being found guilty of murder, he was, incarcerated in Moyamensing Prison in Pennsylvania. And he was immediately contacted by the Hearst Corporation, the big publishing house, who paid him an amazing amount of money for the time in 1896 if he would write his memoirs right there in prison. And so you're right. He liked to write. He was good at it.
Yeah.
He was, he had no problem going outside the lines as far as truth was concerned, quite often. But he was a writer, and so the this discovery that I had at 40 years old about who my great-great-grandfather was, and when you think about great-great-grandfather, Greg, you're thinking about my grandfather's grandfather.
Yep.
And which gets it pretty close. And while the rest of the family had gone on with their lives, I was obsessed in finding out what was going on here, and I was certainly being contacted by all the TV people, all the TED Talk people, all those people want me to write a book now all of a sudden, and so it was a fun thing to do. But as I write about in the book, Greg, and this is more to your subject matter, my life started changing. I started developing this disorder, a mental condition. I started having blackouts, which resulted in dreams, very strange dreams all of a sudden, nothing I'd ever had before in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went to the medical science people, my neurologists,
Yeah.
they diagnosed it as that I had come up with a case of epilepsy, and I was having seizures.
Oh.
And these seizures had the result of me losing track of where I was for a period of time and having these dreams, which continually began to be visits from you-know-who. And I started having visions and voices and secrets about the real story, and which the doctors all told me, Greg, were normal for epilepsy. They were normal for seizures. That's what happens in those things. They can also be violent. You can also, actually, people die from grand mal seizures.
Mm-hmm.
And, so that was a big change to my life. And so I started thinking about the paranormal. I started thinking about the supernatural. I started thinking about ghosts, which I'd never done before. And falling back on, what the rationalization that the physicians had given me.
Mm-hmm.
But we kept our investigation up, but I just kept struggling with that condition that had suddenly emerged. And perhaps the ultimate experience and my first true encounter, if I could give that as my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, it's very difficult. Has anyone ever proven they've seen a ghost so that to the
where everyone would believe, right? I mean, that's what it always comes down to, right? That we know what our situations, we know what our experiences are. It doesn't mean that everyone's going to believe what we're saying. Yeah.
No. And so we had become the team, and I had developed an investigatory team. Even that's how fascinated people around the country. I imagine we've got a couple listeners from the team on listening right now to your show.
That's cool. That'd be cool.
And great, very intelligent, hardworking people that will help me whenever we find anything new about the subject. But and very talented too. But so we became fascinated with the subject of the murder castle, which, if you don't mind, I'll fill your listeners in a little bit.
Please do.
About in the late 19th century, 1890s, there was the Chicago World's Fair, which was the event of the time for the entire world. I mean, you had Einstein there, you had Edison, you had Tesla, you had these incredible people. They're all they're dedicating their new discoveries, and millions of people from around the world visited Chicago in this. And if you Google it up, you'll see the pictures of it there on the waterfront are incredible.
They are incredible. I've seen them. Yeah, absolutely.
And down the road, Greg, 2 miles down the road, a subway train. I don't know if they called it a subway train back then. We're within walking distance. 2 mile, a short stretch of the legs, was Holmes building his murder castle. And with his pharmacy and with his offices and with his second floor hotel rooms for people that needed a place to stay overnight during the fair. And then with a basement down below, which books have been written over and over and over about, and I never got to see the actual basement. But the stories about it I don't know. Have you ever read Eric Larson's book, The Devil in the White City?
I haven't read the book, but I've read descriptions about the murder castle.
Yeah, and he's got great descriptions of what was going on down there in that basement and during the fair. So, and the paranormal world was pretty convinced that the post office there for some strange reason, Greg, I've never had an answer for this one. I've had FOIA requests. I've gone back to DC to see numerous people, but never had much of an answer on this about why the federal government would have bought the murder castle, torn it down, knowing that there had been unsolved murders committed there that the Chicago police had admitted that they'd never solved, and then built a U.S. post office, sort of, adjacent to it.
Right. Yeah.
And like I said, up against, they bordered each other right there on the property.
Mm-hmm.
And the stories from the post office employees were how the basement was haunted. Well, that stuff was fascinating me all of a sudden.
Mm-hmm.
And I write about it in the book, about that first visit into the post office, getting permission to go down into that basement to see what we could find.
That's incredible. A friend of yours is on here, Tom McNicholas. I see him in the chat here, and he says that he's known you for many years. He says best memory was we both visited the site of the murder castle and then he listened to your stories of this place.
All right.
Now,
hey Tom, how are you?
Jeff, I'm going to need to take another break here, and we have one more segment left. But I want to say something to you real fast. You don't have to answer now. You could think about it and be on the show. One of the things I do in the paranormal, and I'm relatively known for, is using a device called the Spirit Box. And a Spirit Box, if you don't know what that is, it's a device, basically a radio that you speak, you ask questions, and the theory is that you're getting more live responses from spirits. And I have been able to reach out to many people, people's relatives and stuff with great success. I even have like you said, we can't prove it, but I have audio that we believe is Mary Todd Lincoln through my Spirit Box sessions. My question to you is, and you don't have to answer this, but I'd like you to think about it, if you would ever consider doing a live feed, kind of like what we're doing now, you being on with me, and we try to reach your great-great-grandfather.
I'll think about it.
Think about it, please. And folks, don't expect an answer tonight. I kind of threw it on him and threw it on everybody. But what we're going to do is we're going to take a break. There's so much to talk about. We're not going to get through everything, but hopefully, we can coax Jeff to come back as well. We're going to come back, continue talking about HH Holmes. You're listening to GhostBox Radio on AM 950.
If you own a holistic or metaphysical business and are looking to expand, then you need to be listed on metamorphosisconnections.com. It's a network where you can grow with like-minded practitioners and reach new clients. Metamorphosisconnections.com is an online directory you need to list yourself and your business. Our platform makes it easy for you to create listings of your products and services, and you can also choose to list your classes, events, and so much more. Metamorphosisconnections.com helps you create weekly and monthly promotional ads targeted towards your potential clients and promotes them for you via social media and newsletter. There are clients searching for your specialty right now. Let us help them find you. Start your listing today so you can share your own unique gifts and talents by finding the level of membership that best fits your needs. Let us help you reach your clients that are searching for what you do. Visit metamorphosisconnections.com and sign up today.
Hello, I'm Jody, also known as Witch Jody on social media. I opened Midwest Witchery and Healing in historic Stillwater because as a nurse, I love to help others. When you come and visit Midwest Witchery and Healing, you will find everything from divination and magical services, classes to ritual tools, jewelries, handcrafted candles, witchy gear, and much more. My store is a safe environment for all on their own unique path. Look for the purple door. Find out more at MidwestWitcheryHealing.com.
Magus Books, your multicultural spiritual supply store. Stop in and expand your horizons with books, classes, readings, and supplies at magusbooks.com or in our shop at 1848 Central Avenue Northeast in Minneapolis. From the best incense to beautiful statues, we have supplies and books for your spiritual explorations. Come in and chat with our knowledgeable staff and get what you need for your next adventure, whether you're fighting ghosts or opening your third eye. Check us out today at magusbooks.com.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Cloudy tonight with a low around freezing, then on Friday, cloudy with a high around 49. Hell is empty and all the devils are here again offers a much-needed communal laugh and is in the spirit of radical inclusion. Performances are at the Luminary Arts Center in Minneapolis now until November 18th. Get your tickets at interactcenterarts.org.
So you're telling me, Adam, he is not in the building?
No, apparently not.
All right. I mean, it's lifelike. The weather is lifelike.
It really is.
Join us tomorrow on GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun. It's Casual Friday. We'll be going through some stories. We'll be talking about feedback that we've been getting, talking about the different episodes we've had this week. I have a feeling this one might pop up again tomorrow, talking a little bit about it. Though, Adam, I might be doing it from the studio at home. I just want to let you know I have a big day Saturday. So I may want to just be at home and do my thing because I have to get up early and get stuff done. It's going to be a good day Saturday.
Yeah, it's supposed to be nice. I'll be doing yard work, so enjoy your event.
Oh, thank you. Not so much an event, but I appreciate it all the same. We are talking with Jeff Mudgett. The name might be very familiar to a lot of you true crime fans, as he is the great-great-grandson to HH Holmes. And we're having a really fascinating conversation tonight. Jeff, that was one of the questions I was going to ask you, and I wasn't sure when we would get to it, was the paranormal aspect of, do you believe that your great-great-grandfather had come to you in any way, shape, or form? And it appears that he has.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about it. That first trip into the post office basement, as I mentioned to you and Adam before, that I wasn't a believer going down those steps. I didn't believe in the supernatural, the paranormal, spirit. I didn't even believe in God, to tell you the truth. And I tried to capture. That's one of the things that I've noticed, Greg, reading lately about, people's experiences with the paranormal. It's a very, very difficult subject to capture well in writing.
Yeah.
And it almost comes off sounding silly sometimes, the stuff I've read. And I tried to put it into words that maybe a believer, someone like you, could understand how that first trip down those steps into that basement, what had happened. And there's no doubt in my mind that I had an encounter down there with my great-great-grandfather who didn't like the man that I had gone down there with, the team member with. And suddenly this vision voice wanted me to hurt the guy that I had played college basketball with, the guy that he and I had done many, many things in our life together with, great friends. And he didn't like that at all. So to tell you the truth, Greg, that spirit box question you gave me earlier, I wouldn't mind doing that at all. I've for a long time believed that, and I tried to get some of the big ghost hunting teams to do it with me, but none of them were willing to do it.
Yeah.
For a long time, I've believed that basement at 63rd and Wallace in Chicago will one day prove the paranormal. If there was a professional team that went down there with me and that encounter happened again, that they could record.
Yeah. I mean, I think we would get something. And it may take more than one session. I don't know, but I think that there's such a link between you two, that being told to hurt your friend. How strong was that? Was it like really strong?
No, yeah, I captured that well. That's my favorite chapter of my book, chapter 27. The episode down in that basement where the spirit, or as my neurologists say, the vision that I had during another seizure, wanted me to kill him. It didn't like him down there with us. It wanted he and I to be there alone, just the two of us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had to sit down in the corner of this dark, dusty, spider-webby old post office basement that no one used of the employees because they all thought it was haunted. And
they were right.
and they were right. And we found some original tunnels that while the post office hadn't built directly over the top of the murder castle, there had been two of the original tunnels that Holmes had built in the basement of the murder castle that for some reason the engineers for the post office had left down there in the basement for the post office. So fascinating stuff, we crawled up inside the tunnels, and to tell you the truth, Greg, it all got to be too much, and I had to sit down, catch my breath, and finally told everyone there that I'd had enough. I needed to get out.
It's almost too much even hearing it, and we're not even talking about the murders. I mean, for some reason, I can, I don't know. It feels like the energy is even just shifting in here a little bit, just talking about it, that it seems so claustrophobic, it seems so dark. And I like what you said about how you're writing it in the book. We never say the name of the book. It's called Bloodstains, and you can get the book off of Jeff's site, which is buck29cafe.com, because the ebook is $1.29. So there's no excuse not to get it. But to be able to write it, because people like us who investigate, and I'm not saying it's not accessible to people who don't investigate, but people like us who investigate, we're going to feel the same thing that you are talking about because we've experienced similar, maybe not exactly the same, but we've experienced that before. So we understand like your reactions and why you're writing it a certain way. You know what I mean?
Oh, can I tell you something very honestly? What you just said was very accurate, and the reason why I put the book, an ebook, on my own website for $1.29 was I wasn't trying to make money on this. I wanted to be with someone maybe like you, the one that showed the world that this isn't a hoax, this isn't a joke, this isn't people making up ghost stories. This is an energy force that I felt myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd love to be the one that gets to help prove it.
Yeah.
I'd love it.
Well, and it's also interesting that, it could be proved with somebody like Holmes, because that dark nature, I could imagine that he doesn't want to leave the earth. He wants to stick around. He wants, who knows what he's doing now, that it might be like, if he could go into your mind and try to make you hurt your best friend, who's to say he's not doing it to other people? He's still not playing the game, or he's still playing the game, right?
Oh yeah. And there was a part of it all, Greg, where he was interested in someone filling his shoes, to tell you the truth. One of my favorites, and one of my favorite television shows, and I know it's got to be yours too. Only, my story goes to the evil side, where that story goes to a good side, was Dexter. I used to love watching Dexter.
Yeah.
And that connection that he had with that energy.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell you what, it's I know there's a lot of people that think anyone believing in this stuff is loony, is goofy, all those things, and I'll accept all those things. But I know what I felt and saw.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'd love to have someone join me down there that has the ability to record it if it happened again, professionally, with the right equipment, and maybe present it as something that I don't know. It's been there's how many How many people do they say now, Greg, believe in the paranormal in America? 100 million?
There's a lot. There is a ton. It keeps growing now. Yeah.
And I'd love to be. I've been long convinced that 63rd and Wallace in Chicago may be the place where it's actually done. I know. I did a show with the Ghost Adventures in Indiana once about a house that Holmes had murdered a little boy in. And to tell you the truth, we found nothing. And then there was another show in that wanted to be done in Toronto, where he was supposed to have murdered two twin little girls.
Mm-hmm.
And that didn't work out. But I've always long wanted that one more shot at 63rd and Wallace. We'd have to get permission from the federal government.
Yeah.
You'd have to find someone there that has the authority, that's a believer, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And that would give us a shot. But what an opportunity we'd have, huh?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's figure out a way to do it. I think that that would be amazing. Now, the boy that you went to the house in Indiana for Ghost Adventure, was it related to the Peitzel killing? Like, was it one of the Peitzel boys, or?
That was the little Peitzel boy that
Yeah.
that Holmes murdered. Yeah, and that poor innocent boy that had nothing to do with any of the crimes, or the Peitzel father was involved. He was a cohort of Holmes and some of the crimes they committed. And then the two little girls in Toronto were the sisters. And
they were suffocated. Well, they were put in a like a trunk or something, and they were gassed, weren't they?
Oh yeah, and then had their feet cut off so that they couldn't be identified with feet and the whole thing. And he was the terrible man. There's no. I've long wondered why, Greg, the ghost thing, seems to gravitate toward that evil side. But I guess it has to do with an energy force, with how that man would have thought when he was alive, I guess.
Well, and you got to wonder too, Jeff, if it's also due, because I firmly believe that, there are certain people who don't want to cross over because they know what they've done, and there might be, whether rightly or wrongly, they fear if they cross over what's waiting for them. And I wonder if that's why you get so much darker energy, because maybe some of them don't want to cross over. And I still do go back to thinking that Holmes in particular would love to. I mean, if he realizes that he can mess around with people, he's not going to go anywhere. I mean, this is exactly the sort of thing he would want to do.
I completely agree. And that's when I don't know how much time we have left.
We have about 2 minutes.
A quick. Oh, how much?
About 2 minutes.
Well, that's him. We don't have enough for it. But if I ever get a chance to come back on with you, I'll let your listeners in on when History Channel actually agreed to assist me. We actually had the Holmes body exhumed from where it was allegedly buried after the execution.
Yeah.
And then we hired some amazing anthropologists from the University of Pennsylvania to determine whether it really was Holmes or not, with the latest in forensic science, CT scans, DNA, all that stuff.
Wow.
And I'll tell you though, but one night in particular, we had the body out. It was at the lab at the UPenn, and the film crew from History was up there getting their dinner break. And I had snuck down into the lab, Greg, to be with the skeleton by itself, laying there on the table.
Yeah.
And I actually grabbed the skull in my hand, and as the Hamlet scene.
Yeah.
And I had tried talking with the skeleton to ask him why he'd been like that, why he'd done those things, why he wanted to be with such a brain, why he'd wanted to be so evil when he could have helped thousands of people back then with the disease they had in America in the 19th century, all those things. And at that moment, Greg, before they did any of their forensic science, the DNA, they did DNA comparison on me, everything with the body. And at that moment, I knew it wasn't him.
Oh, wow.
It
just
was
felt
a substitution.
You felt it.
I felt it. It wasn't him. And they, they didn't want to put that on the television show, obviously. But when we did the DNA, when we did the CT scans, it wasn't.
Incredible. Jeff Mudgett, we're going to have you back on the program sooner than later. And then maybe you and I can talk briefly off air about a couple things. The book is called Bloodstains. You get it at buck29cafe.com. I will put that on the website. Jeff, thank you so much for your time tonight. What a great conversation.
Oh, I knew it would be a good time, and I'd love to come back on. And the conclusion of the book was something I'd really like to discuss with you and your listeners and Adam about where Holmes went after he escaped execution.
We will definitely do that. Tomorrow's Casual Friday. Everyone take care. Good night.
It's Brad Friedman, host of the Bradcast, weeknight